Lots of new features and enhanced features within here. First one is a topic for you folks that use business areas. So on the aged receivable list or the aged receivable report, we've now given you the option to go ahead and select a combination of business areas. So the option now is when you say, I am looking for specific business areas, an additional box will activate for you where you can then select and choose the combination of business areas that you would like this report to report on. So definitely a nice feature, especially for clubs that have quite a few different business areas configured. The other one that we've done is really just more of a cleanup or streamlining of how you engage and what you see on the various setup edit member screens. So for the credit limit feature, which I know quite a few of our clubs like to use, credit limit typically applies to the primary member and then trickles down to any dependents as well. And what we've done to kind of just help highlight that is if you are picking a dependent account, so if Mr. Smith is account 1000 and you go into 1000A, which is their significant other, we've deactivated that credit limit feature within the dependent's account, just so that there's no confusion about which account is primary and which account is responsible for that credit limit or carrying that credit limit for the account. Nice new feature that we've developed into this year's release is the ability to have Jonas automatically generate a member number for you. So if your club uses sequential numeric member numbering, you now have the option to activate a feature where Jonas will automatically assign the next available member number to you. So jumping into my Jonas system here, club management and then club setup here, within your basic club profile, for any one of the clubs that you might have configured, under the special option here, bottom half of the screen allows you to now activate that new feature. So turning on that feature altogether, saying I do want Jonas or I do want the system to generate the member number for me. Activating a user override, meaning that if for some reason I want to override that sequential number, maybe I'm setting up a house account or some other account that wouldn't fall into the regular numbering sequence, we can override that, and then telling Jonas what the next member number in line will be. So whatever member number you'll put in here will be the next member number that Jonas suggests that you use when setting up the member's account. So just to show you what that looks like on setting up the member side, the second I come in here and say set up another member and I hit enter through the member number field, it'll automatically assign that next available member number for me. So great little feature there. Another one obviously goes without saying, 2020 was a year for the record. It was definitely a challenging year for all of us. And in the world of of clubs, a lot has changed as well. And I know that all of you folks have experienced quite a bit of that. And there's been quite a bit of a focus on anything contactless. And one of the interfaces that we've built is to a door access company called Salto. And this interface was specifically built for clubs looking to switch to a more contactless way of accessing doors throughout the club. So either walking in through to reception, all the way to accessing fitness areas at the club, or various tennis courts, and being able to do that without having to actively open the door or have someone open the door for you, and just doing that by scanning a member card or an access card. Another great feature that we've built, and I know I've spoken to quite a few clubs about this throughout the years, is the ability to set up a daily limit on specific member accounts. And the classic example here, and I'll kind of use two examples here that I've seen quite a bit of, is a lot of clubs are setting up their staff as members within Jonas to be able to allow them to charge meals back to their account, either meals that the club is providing complimentary, or meals that the member themselves are responsible for. And the other example is that a lot of clubs have a desire to restrict especially younger children from being able to charge over a certain amount of money to their parents' account. So this feature allows clubs to set a daily limit. This is a live calculation. So if I set a member or any one of their dependents with a daily limit and they've already spent $5 of the $10 that we've limited them to, Jonas will automatically go ahead and take in that $5 spent into account, even though the end of day hasn't been run or anything like that. And there's a nice level of functionality here where, again, we set this up on the primary members account, and then you can dictate how that also translates to any dependent accounts as well. And I'll pull it up here within my Jonas system. And then over on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a POS charge limit. And what you have the ability to do here is go ahead and define whether or not this member is limited or unlimited. The default right now is that your members will be set obviously to unlimited. So I'll go ahead and limit this member, and I can say this member is limited to $100 a day. And then I can define for any of their dependents as well, whether or not they inherit that same limit, i.e. it applies to them as well. So $100 for each one of them. Or I can go ahead and set them unlimited, or I can limit them and override them to another amount. And this works in the other way as well, where the primary member might be unlimited, and I might have a dependent such as a younger child that I might want to limit, and I can go ahead and define what that limit is for them as well. So great feature. Again, I kind of see this being applicable in two scenarios. One where you've got children coming in using, let's say the pool bar or something like that, snack bar, to purchase little items throughout the day, and you wanting to be able to allow your members to limit them, as well as a really useful feature for staff management as well. So what we've seen clubs do is set up the F&B department as the primary member, and then each one of the staff members that might have a daily allotment or a daily allowance, and setting them up as dependent accounts as well. Nice little feature within here as well. So what we've done in here is within integrated cash receipts, if you are applying an overpayment, we've now gone ahead and just given you a reminder here that overpayment will be applied as an on-account value to that member's account. And obviously with an overpayment or an on-account payment, that will then be subsequently adjusted, typically at month end when you're running your auto apply credit balances, and that on-account payment will go ahead and apply in order from oldest to newest to any outstanding charges on that member's account. A nice feature in here, and I'll kind of touch on this one. This one is very similar to my discussion about F1. I find there's not a lot of, or not enough clubs that know about some of the great features that we have within Jonas. So as much as we'll share with you what's new, we'll share with you a couple of tips and tricks as we go as well. So the enhancement first, or the what's new feature here, is being able to define a picture file format. So for those of you folks that are currently storing member photos against your members' accounts, you can now come in and say, I want all photos saved as a JPEG, or I want all photos saved as a bitmap, and go ahead and define that as a default for all photos. And for those of you that might be scratching your heads and wondering what I'm talking about altogether, that's okay too. You can store photos against your member's account. Very, very simple logic in Jonas. If a member sends you a photo and you save it as their member number, there is a little bit of configuration on the back end of Jonas. So back to my slide here. Within the basic club profile, you do have to set a file folder on the server for where you're going to store those photos, and then tell Jonas where I want to see those photos, because I can see it in the member's account, I can see it in the point of sale system, and a variety of other areas in Jonas as well. And very simple logic. If you save it as the member's number, you can go ahead and save it right in there. One of the nice features that we have as well, what a lot of clubs are finding is that they'll go ahead and send out email communication and ask all their members to send photos. And, clubs are known to get back a lot of glamour shots, pictures of members, from 10, 15, 20 years ago that may not necessarily look exactly like they look now. So what some clubs are switching to instead is capturing their photo in live time. So when they walk into the reception desk or they walk into the pro shop, they want the ability to snap their photo right there. And we actually have the ability, if you do have a web camera attached to your computer that you're accessing this from, you'll notice there's a little camera icon that activates there. And my laptop does have a camera, so you'll see me here in just a second. And my program will come up and I can capture a picture of myself and then save that directly to the member's account within a few easy clicks. And like I said, a lot of clubs are finding success in kind of capturing those photos as members are walking in, through the reception desk, through the pro shop, or any other areas of the club where you might have someone that's greeting a member. It's a great photo of me in the middle of speaking. So the next and quite significant enhancement that we've made to Jonas Club Management, specifically in the club management module, has to do with deferred revenue. And there's quite a few slides on this, so I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the product first, and then go ahead and actually cover off all the slides that may relate to this. And the slides in this case are really more so a reference for you folks when you're going back and looking at these features within your club. But some of you might recall last year we created a deferred or a prepaid expense program in accounts payable. So if you're prepaying for insurance or prepaying any expense really, and you want Jonas to go ahead and recognize that deferred expense through the course of the year by making 1/12th entries, we've got the ability to do that. So if that's new to you, definitely go back to our YouTube site and look for the what's new from last year. And we go through, again, I go through step by step how to run those prepaid expenses. And the new feature for this year, for those of you that are familiar with that one, is the same concept for deferred revenue. So we find that quite a few clubs, and I'm sure some of you on the phone do this currently, have massive spreadsheets where you're tracking deferred revenue postings across, multiple years in certain cases. So a member is paying either an installments or upfront an entry fee or an initiation fee, and then you're wanting to go ahead and defer and recognize that revenue on a schedule across multiple years. We now have that feature built right into Jonas. So that's part of our installment billing module. The very bottom is a program called Deferred Revenue Recognition. And this program can be run in conjunction with the installment billing module, but installment billings is really the billing portion of anything that your club is doing over the long term. And this is really to do with revenue recognition. So the two could in theory be linked, but really can be run separately as well. And there's a whole slew of features in here, and I'll kind of walk you through each and every one of them. So the first one is the deferred revenue type as well. So you can have multiple different deferred revenue codes set up in here. And this is really the GL definition for these programs. So where is the deferred revenue going initially? And then we actually ask you for both the short-term and long-term GL accounts, because this module makes those entries for you automatically. So at the beginning of each year, Jonas is automatically calculating for you how much of that is long-term, how much of that is short-term, and really automatically balancing those two accounts for you, so you're not stuck having to make those entries yourself. And then when recognized, so as we're actually running the deferred entries, where are we moving those entries from and where are we moving them to? So quite comprehensive in terms of the journal entry. And then you're setting up the individual members here with their various schedules. So if I pull up a member here, this member had a deferred amount of $15,000 that we collected up front as their entry fee. And then I can actually come in here and define how many postings I'm making, what is the frequency of those postings. So you can do weekly postings, monthly postings, really anything you want. You can define what that range is. So if I come in here and set up a new member, for example, the first thing it'll ask me is what's the amount. So I can say $15,000, what the first posting is that Jonas can make, how many postings I want to make. So let's say I want to do this over 15 years, although you'll see there's quite a few different options in here. And then I can load up what that schedule is. And then I can also go ahead and override this at any time as well. So if I wanted it to be different amounts every year, I could override that. If I wanted to override the GL account or the posting dates, I can do that within here as well. Now, for some of you that have quite a few different deferred revenue schedules, it might be a bit onerous for you to go in and set each one up. We do have uploads within here as well, and there are two uploads. One is a deferred revenue schedule upload, which is really one where I can just tell Jonas what the amount of deferred revenue is initially, how many postings I wanted to make, and what the frequency is, and Jonas will automatically do the math. So in my example of $15,000 annually, it'll go ahead and do that over 15 years for me, and then go ahead and divide that out for me. Now, if you are doing something that's a little bit more, a little different or a little bit less conventional than the straight math example that I just went through, we also have a program in here where you can upload flexible amounts as well. Now, as with different areas in Jonas, you may be familiar with uploading and self-servicing on some of these features, and you may not be. There's always the option in here to pull the specifications. Jonas will give you an example of what the file format should be, what how you should be saving that file. So this one should be a CSV, and then what the various columns are that you have to input in order for Jonas to upload this for you successfully. A lot of people are always a bit gun shy when it comes to trying to do your own uploads. Definitely reach out to the support team if you need help for the first time. But there's quite a few different areas within Jonas that you can actually upload your own information. So fee billing schedules is another one where you can actually go in and assign members, upload them to various fee billing schedules, everywhere down to uploading budgets into the general ledger module. That yourself as well. So just wrapping up deferred revenue, you then have a recognized deferred revenue program. So this is the program that actually goes through and makes those journal entries for you after the member's been signed up initially. So if I come in for January here, it'll go ahead and load up any of the members that are scheduled for a deferred entry for this month. And then you've got your preview post option there. Last but not least, we love our reports. So we give you 2 reports with this module to start with. One is a deferred revenue status report, which allows you to come in as of a certain date and review both what's already been recognized as revenue and what's outstanding. Again, very similar to your process now, you're going to want to reconcile this back to the GL. So we give you that report to do that quite easily. And then we also give you more of a forecasting type report where you can come in here and pull any of the deferred revenue schedules and forecast out what that looks like for the next 5 or 10 years. So lots of great functionality in there. Again, some of these slides just pertain to exactly what we're talking about. We developed some of these features as we went through the course of last year. So there's quite a few slides on these different features. In the installment billing module, so again, similar but not the same as the deferred revenue entry, but within that same kind of module, we've also activated some additional columns on the installment billing side to allow clubs to control the entry of service charges and taxes on your installment billing schedules. So in the past, these were locked fields. You weren't able to come in and actually update this information. We've now given you the option within the basic club profile to activate those for you, so you can actually come in and custom configure those for your club. Again, some additional screens here on the deferred revenue programs, and I'll kind of just jump over those. A great enhancement that we've done in the club report generator is just adding some additional age range codes in here. Quite a few of you folks that work within the club management module know and love the club report generator because of how many different reports you can write in there. And we've just added the feature into here specifically pertaining to age ranges and just increasing the amount of age ranges that you have as an option to choose from, and really just a shortcut from not having to condition that information out when you're actually running the report. A nice one, again, especially for those of you that work day to day within some of these screens, we've just increased the size and the viewing pane on some of the screens that you're working within day to day. So club chit processing, setup and editing chit batches, as well as reoccurring journal entries have all just been expanded in size, just giving you more real estate on the screen so you can see more of the rows of data that you're entering. And I'm sure many of you on the phone, especially in club chit processing, are loading up quite a few lines and rows, especially when you're doing batch billing, and this just allows you to view more of that information all on the one screen for yourselves. There's a couple of these as we go through club management. So this one pertains specifically to integrated cash receipts. We've given you the option now to do a GL description and reference override. So rather than using what we've pre-programmed into Jonas, we've now given you the option on the right-hand side of that screen to come in and configure your own GL posting description and reference. Nice feature here is that once you've logged in and done this once for yourself, the next time you specifically as a user log in, will automatically save what you've done from the last time, and you can either choose to continue to use that description and reference override or update it with a new one. One for some of the clubs on the line from the UK. I think I saw a couple of names from some UK clubs this evening. So for our Handicap Master interface specifically, we've just given you now a drop down within the interface profile where you can more accurately define which line of fee billings Handicap Master should take as understanding as being the membership type or the subscription type for a member. You can set up multiple fee billings, and those fee billings could be on any one specific line. So we're just giving you the option now to more accurately define that for Handicap Master. Kind of looping back around to installment billings just for a second and those deferred revenue postings that I discussed earlier. We've now also given you a couple of report generator codes as well. So 2 fantastic reports that we've built canned. And as is usual, we've also given you a few codes to use within the club report generator should you wish to want to build your own custom reports around those bits of functionality as well. I'm a huge fan of these sorts of little efficiencies. I'm sure quite a few of you on the phone will share my excitement for this one. So within quite a few of the screens, specifically within Club Management, we've given you the option to navigate between codes. So what we mean by this, and I'll illustrate this with item groups as a good example. So within item groups, historically, you would have to come in, you would select one, you would have to exit out and then select the next one. And what we've done in here instead is given you a next and previous button. So just a nice way to navigate through the various codes, especially useful if you're updating GL accounts or nominal accounts, tax codes, or any of the parameters on these screens. It just gives you that extra little bit of efficiency without having to back out and go back in again, and do that all within one screen without having to leave. So all the various programs that we've done that in are there for you on the screen for your reference as well. Another nice one in relation to the member account inquiry, and I'll jump into the account inquiry in just a moment, but this one pertains specifically to installment billings, being able to run this for a specific date range and just being able to custom configure that. So if I wanted to run it for a year or 2 years or 5 years, I can go in and actually define that date range just as a way to get to that information quickly and easily. One little tip and trick, something that came up during our last What's New webinar earlier this week. I'm sure a lot of you know and love the account inquiry, and the question came up, well, what happens if I have multiple members? And, you know, to that same point about doing previous and next within those screens that we were just talking about, someone asked if it would be great that we can do that in here. And extra points to anyone who might be able to actually tell me how to do this, or tell me if you know how to do this in the questions box. But not enough clubs know that if you hit F11 here, you can actually pull up what we call selected member screen. I got one answer from Steve. Looks like he's familiar with this one. And you can actually come in here and select a range of members, or go and custom select a whole bunch of members that you might want to view member account inquiries for. Either option works in here, and then, I picked the same member twice here. But I can go ahead and select all the members I'd like to see, or again, use that date range. And then it opens up a previous and next option here for me. And this extends far beyond just the member account inquiry. You can also do this in the GL account inquiry and the accounts payable vendor inquiry as well. So there's quite a few different places within Jonas where we have that type of inquiry screen where you can utilize that function as well. Hopefully I've taught you something that you didn't already know there. Moving on to minimums. So, in the minimum screen, we've had the option, we've just, made some enhancements to how this function works with regards to carrying over the overspent amount to a next or a subsequent period. So what we mean by this is that if we've got monthly minimums set up, and we've got this flag on, and I've overspent by $50. So my minimum for the month was 100. I spent 150. Some clubs do allow members to carry over the overspent amount. And this flag, what it would allow me to do is carry over that $50 that I've overspent to the next period, therefore only requiring me to spend $50 in the next month or in the next cycle that I have defined. The caveat here is that you can only carry it forward once. So in the next month, I have to spend 50, but I can't carry that forward again to the next month. It stops in the next cycle that it carries it forward to. So another one on the deferred revenue side, I already walked through this feature, so I'll go ahead and jump over it. So we talked about the reference and GL description override when we were looking at integrated cash receipts. Same sort of functionality here when you're clearing out or purging gift cards or cash cards in Jonas, is just being able to drive or custom configure for your club what the GL description override and what the reference override is, should you want something a little bit more specific or relevant to what you are doing at your club. A nice feature here within the bank PAP module, so just being able to pull up file specifications. So we've got lots of clubs that either are in the process of changing banks or in the process of implementing this module brand new. And the bank typically asks, what format do you want this information in? And if, for example, you're a Canadian club and you're working with RBC, we can go ahead and actually provide you with the file specification. You can either print that out or copy and paste it into an email, send that back to the bank and say, this is the file format that Jonas, my software solution, has, and then have them go ahead and match that specification for you. So really just a tool to help understand what's in specific columns or what the formatting is that you're going to expect to get when you run this program out of your Jonas system. This one's a nice one for those clubs that use our standard configurable statement design. We call it GJK25GU. It sounds overly complicated for what it is, but if you're wondering what your statement design is in Club Management, Club Admin, you've got your Select Clubs form design option. And within here, you can go ahead and view what your statement design is. Mine's set to something that isn't our standard at the moment. But for our standard configurable statement design, which I know a good number of you on the phone or on today's webinar use, you've got two basic options. You've got one where Jonas can print the lines and boxes for you, or we've got some clubs that prefer to print it on their own design. They either have pre-printed statement paper or a preloaded background image sitting on their server. In the past, if you were using the second example where it was a preloaded statement paper or image, we weren't able to print credit balance, do not pay if you had a member that had a credit balance. We've now gone ahead and enhanced that where you can now utilize that configuration as well. Within minimums here, so I've recently worked with a club that had well over 70 sales areas set up in their Jonas system. Some of you might be scratching your head as to why they had 70. They definitely didn't have 70 physical outlets, but they got a bit creative in terms of what they were using sales areas for. But I know a number of you have a good number of sales areas, and within the minimum program, we have had some clubs that ran out of space when it came to how many of those sales areas minimum spend rules apply to or minimum cycles apply to. So what we've done is given you the option to use a dash in here. So if it applies to everything between sales area 10 and 15, instead of putting in 10, 11, 12, you could just do 10 to 15 with a dash and it'll capture everything between those two numbers for you. Within some of the interfaces that we have, so this one specifically is for Fidelio. So our Fidelio interface typically historically always operated off of the guest name. So you could pull up and search for a guest name in your Fidelio in-house list. We've now given you the option to also query by room number. So if you want to search room 101 or 102, you can do that as opposed to going ahead and doing it by or guest first name or last name. So this is another one that I'll spend a couple of minutes on because it's a great feature. So the enhancement to this program, which is called Change, Setup, and Edit Member Information, is we've given you two new fields that you can go in and update in here, being the credit limit field and the date resign field. Date resign field is an important one. Hopefully all of you folks are, as a best practice now, updating members with date resigned. You may notice in your system that in the past users weren't as quite vigilant as they should have been when they were resigning members and putting in their date resigned. So we've given you the option now to go back and update that in bulk. And updating in bulk is exactly what this program does. So Change, Setup, and Edit Member Information allows you to come in, and it's just located in Member File in Club Management, and actually in bulk update a variety of fields here. So if I wanted to turn on or off or configure statement options for members, so I want to go completely paperless at the club, I want to switch everyone from printed to emailed, I can actually come in here, say I want to change everyone here to emailed, and either key in all the member numbers. So if you've got 10, 15, might be easier to just come in and key in all their member numbers. But there is also an import option in here as well. And you can import into this program in one of two different ways. One is through the results of a club report generator report. And we've got some great documentation. I think we even have a video on how to update from report gen designs, but you could also just do a straight import. So again, just like when I was discussing some of those deferred revenue posting imports, there is a specs button in here. This one's super easy. All you have to do is tell us the member numbers. So single column spreadsheet, give us all the member numbers, save it as a CSV, and then you can go ahead and upload those list of members that you want to change to email statement option, for example. So lots of great features in there. The common misconception is that I have to go in and do all this stuff manually. I always tell clubs, go in here and check first, because we might have a feature for you where we can bulk upload that for you. All right, so another kind of just more of an aesthetic one, cleaning up things, making them a little bit more streamlined in terms of how you're engaging with the various programs in Jonas Club Management. So we've updated some of the screens. The one that some of you might be most familiar with is apply member fee billings and dues, and changing from those radio buttons, the preview and the update, to more of the more updated screen that you would have seen elsewhere in the product, where you've got the post, preview and post option, and then the subsequent behavior of when you do a preview, it'll go ahead and pull up the preview report for you, and then go ahead and ask you if you want to update as well. So we've just kind of updated all those programs that you see there on the left-hand side with that more refreshed type of functionality. Another one, in an effort to kind of minimize the amount of, perhaps irrelevant or not applicable information when you're running some reports. So within the levy activity report, we've now said don't print any zero balances in any of the purses that you're running. So just again, as a way to just filter out information, just show me, members that might have a value in any one of the levy purses that I'm running this report for. I love this feature. We did this feature specifically in Bank PAP, I think last year or the year prior. I don't remember specifically now, but giving you now the member option when creating your credit card PAP batch. And some of you might be familiar with this from Bank PAP, but this is the ability to go on and select specific members or a range of members to run a PAP batch for. So if you just wanted to run it for a range of members, or you just had 5 or 6 members that for whatever reason weren't captured in the last batch, let's say they had expired credit cards, you can go ahead and rerun it just for that group of members, and just by going in here and selecting them. Great feature there. From a club automation perspective, so again, a common question that we get is, I've got this report, I want it to run, or I've got this feature, pulling handicap information in for any any of our pairings reports or any of our missing scores reports. I don't want to have to run that every day. Is there a way for Jonas to automate that for me? We do have a module in Jonas called Club Automation that has a wide variety of programs that can run on an automated basis for you. The enhancement here is we have enhanced this program to allow you to run the future fee billing program through Club Automation. Some of you might be wondering what future fee billing is. Again, this is one that I like to spend a couple minutes talking about, because I think it's one of those ones that not enough clubs know about. So the majority of you that work on the membership side know about future fee billings. You know and love it. It's what I call your recipe for billing when you look at your member accounts. But over in the top right-hand corner, there's this lesser-known feature called future billing. And the best example I can give you here is that a lot of clubs age members in and out of certain categorizations. So I'm a junior today, I'll then graduate to being an intermediate member, then eventually at 35 or 39, I'll become a full member, and then once I hit 60, I become a senior member. And a lot of clubs have, again, a big complicated spreadsheet or a whole bunch of little sticky, if you're anything like me, you've got a whole bunch of sticky notes around your monitor reminding you to do things. Go ahead and change Mr. Jones on February 5th because he's, upgrading or downgrading his membership, or he's, graduating from one class to another. And you can actually schedule all of that right in Jonas. And we do that by way of the future billing program. So I can actually come in here and say, as of an effective date. So in this case, I can say, effective 2022-0101. So January 1st of next year, this member's member status might change. His minimum fee billings might change. By the way, if I leave it the way it is, it tells you in brackets there's no change. It'll keep it the same. And then I can actually come in here and replace all of their fee billing schedules by turning on the flag or just updating specific ones. So again, if you've got a member graduating from junior to intermediate, you can go ahead and schedule that. And then you can even be, super forward thinking and go ahead and schedule them as well from when they graduate from an intermediate member to a fully privileged member, and then have Jonas run through and actually make those updates for you. Another one, obviously a bit of a theme here. So GL description override and reference override, specifically to do with uploading charges in the levy module. We've given you now the option to do that within this program as well. We've also now given you the preview and post options directly within the batch update program or update chit batches program within the club management processing screens. Just again, a bit of a shortcut, make it as easy as possible to update that information once it's in there. We have added a new interface for our Jonas construction clients. So for those of you that have used both our construction and club modules and now have split them off into two separate installations, we've now created interfacing capabilities where we can upload, let's say, member charges from work orders in the construction module back into your Jonas Club management system for the purposes of sending them out their statement or accounts receivable. Again, another one to do with GL descriptions, and this one specifically, again, to do with cash receipts. We've gotten this request quite a few times, so there might be a few of you on the phone that will be really, really happy about this one, where we now have the option to post cash receipts in detail to either the AR control account or to the bank GL account or to both. And I love having the option for either or here because I may want to post to bank in summary, so just one amount to make my bank reconciliation as easy as possible, but I might want to post to AR in detail or vice versa, just depending on how your bank processes that information for you, or I might want to do both. So we've given you now that nice option to do that. For those of you folks on the phone that use our multi-site membership program, we have enhanced that module as well with now having the option to include fee billing charges. So if I'm billing, let's say, a cart fee or a golf add-on in one of the other clubs that is not my primary club, and I get billed for that, it'll automatically transfer that charge over to me to my primary club or my home club. This one's really cool. I got to see this one in action. Yeah, we had a club share with us how they utilize this technology, which is absolutely amazing. So we've built an interface to a company called FaceLabs, and FaceLabs is basically facial recognition, artificial intelligence software that automatically recognizes members' faces and then goes ahead and tracks that information for you. So this club specifically used this to track members on the way into the club. And obviously in this day and age, with everything being contactless and being able to do that in a seamless way possible, this technology has worked really, really well for them. So this is another significant feature that we added. Again, all things kind of considered with the pandemic that's been affecting all of us. We have built a report within Jonas called the Member Visits Report. So some of you folks might have gotten some email communication with us around this already. And this report functions for two different purposes. And again, there's a video on this one where you can go online on our YouTube site and walk through step by step how to run these reports. But the visits report pertains specifically to a specific member. So I want to pull a report and see all the different touch points that they may have come into contact with at the club. So anywhere we transact with a member, we're able to pull that information for you. So if a member came in and had a tea time, had a court booking, had lunch at the grill room, and maybe checked in through the front desk at the fitness facility, if they've come into contact in all those areas, we track that and then are able to display that on a report for you. And that is a multi-day report, so you can run that for multiple days. And then we also have a member tracing report. And what this does is cross-references information to other members that were at the club. So if I have a member that might have gotten sick for whatever reason, and I wanted to be able to communicate out to all other members that they may have have come into contact with. I can run a report that will likewise show me all the other members that were, in the same area of the club, or, had that same interaction in the various areas that member did as well, and pull that for you out into a report. So definitely beneficial, I'm sure, for most of the clubs on today's webinar. And there's just a couple of samples of what these reports look like. Again, the video does a fantastic job in walking you through how to run this series of reports in your Jonas system.